Yes, it's Sunday night, and Jersey First TV proudly brings to you a special weekend edition of Real Talk. And I am New Jersey's premier and now seven-time award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine for 2020, 2021, and now in 2022, and certainly the Garden State's most beloved and factually accurate political commentator. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Folks, happy Sunday to you all. I'm sure you're probably wondering, why is Fernando having Real Talk on a Sunday? Well, ladies and gentlemen, yes, tomorrow night at 8:15 during Monday Night Football, I, along with about maybe 35,000 other members of Cowboys Nation, are going to invade MetLife Stadium. And I got to tell you, we're ready for what's going to be quite the battle between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Football Giants. Should be a good game, obviously, which is why I'm not broadcasting tomorrow, as I usually do every Monday night at 6 p.m. But again, I'm happy to see you all here this evening from wherever and however you may be doing so. Join us here on Facebook Live via my secondary page, since my main page obviously is being restricted by Facebook. What else is new? Certainly on the Jersey First YouTube page and also on LinkedIn. Sharing is caring, ladies and gentlemen. Share it takes 2 seconds to get that on your newsfeed and help show support for your favorite political commentator here in the Garden State. Yours truly, Fernando Uribe. And folks, by the way, I just want to sort of just put this out there because despite any restrictions, let's say, weekly or anything that's come up in the last few weeks, I have to thank all of you because this show continues to produce solid traffic. From my first episode in February, since I started partnering with Jersey First TV, we're talking about thousands and thousands of views. Okay. And it's not just a couple dozen views like some activists have their little Mickey Mouse YouTube shows. We all know what we're talking about, right? Or other journalists, or, well, really, I call them propagandists. They're masquerading as journalists. They can have their little Mickey Mouse shows as well with, maybe 100, 200 views. That's not my case here, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about thousands of views every week. And of course, it's due to all of you at home, my loyal viewing audience, again, who take the time to watch on their PC, Mac, smartphone, or tablet. Always make sure you check out all my episodes at www.jerseyfirsttv.org/TV/Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Once again, that's www.jerseyfirst, that's the number one, st.org/TV/Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Make sure you like Jersey First on Facebook. Of course, follow it on both Instagram and Twitter. Check out my own Twitter and Instagram. It's the same handle, at the Fernando Zone. And also this show's Instagram, which is at Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. And of course, make sure you like the show on Facebook as well. Ladies and gentlemen, again, happy fall. Again, we just celebrated a couple of days ago, the first days of autumn. I love this weather. Get to sleep with a blanket, maybe put on a sweater, nice chilly evenings. I don't know about you, but I'm always excited about that. And of course, folks, again, make sure you share. Sharing is caring here. And once again, folks, shout out to all my good members of Cowboys Nation. I'm going to see you tomorrow night, all 35,000 of us, as we invade MetLife Stadium. Let me have a little tea right now because I got a feeling we're in for a good game tomorrow. Maybe, but who knows? Our backup Cooper Rush has been impressing us as of late. But folks, what's really impressing me more is just the amazing amount of guests I'm able to get every single week here. And that's the other reason why this show continues to do very well. And this week is no exception. Join me here this week live. He is the chairman of Arise New Jersey, an outstanding local nonprofit organization here in the Garden State. Just real quick, Arise New Jersey is a domestic New Jersey not-for-profit corporation whose mission is to improve education by identifying strong community leaders and providing educational information to those engaged in or considering service on local school boards. In addition, we actively seek to recruit individuals with strong community ties, traditional values, understanding of constitutional principles, and respect for the Bill of Rights. On the upper right-hand corner, see that contribute button. Click on it, folks. Again, skip those breakfast sandwiches, skip those expensive coffees at Starbucks or wherever. Take that money, click the contribute button, and your donation online is safe and secure. And it goes a long way in helping a wonderful organization like Arise NJ. And joining me here is its chairman, the great Josh Aikens, here on Jersey First TV. Josh, how are you, sir?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me on.
I appreciate it. And listen, Josh, again, I want to be a gentleman. Make sure I encourage people to contribute and donate to Arise NJ. It's a wonderful organization. So, Josh, we talked off the air a little bit right before the broadcast, and I've been one of the few, if not the only journalist in New Jersey, especially doing opinion journalism, that has been standing up for parents consistently when it comes to not just this radical sex ed curriculum, which I think is, the liberal cesspool. I'm sorry, the liberal media in New Jersey hasn't really been scrutinizing it, but more so now, I've been the only journalist that's really been sort of helping to, get parents' voices out there, to share links, to share parents' tweets, because this is a really important cause. But really, when we talk about Arise NJ, what was the epiphany for you to get involved with this outstanding organization?
So honestly, there was no epiphany. It was just a good friend of mine, Pastor Phil Rizzo, started the organization. And when he wanted to pursue political endeavors, I didn't want something like this to die off. I felt that this issue was too important at the time. And this was prior to the sex ed standards that came out from the state. This was prior to COVID and masks and the vaccines. So all of this was sort of happening. And to me, I felt it was important for a lot of New Jersey residents, regardless of political affiliation, to get involved in school boards. At that time, the focus was, this is the largest tax bill that everyone will have in their town. 60-70% of your tax bill within your township is your school, for good reason too. It is the backbone, the heartbeat of your community, and it deserves the highest attention possible. So for me, we were looking across the board, talking to Phil, talking to some other people, and I was noticing that there was a lot of school board seats that were empty. People not engaged, people not involved in what I consider to be a civic duty.
When we talk about that civic duty, though, Josh, it's interesting because when people think about elected office, and again, to your point about civic duty, people think about, well, let me run for my local town council or city council, let's say in a larger city, or to run for county executive, or to run for freeholder, now commissioner, or to run for county surrogate. Again, there's a plethora of different elected offices that, again, New Jerseyans and people across the country think about when it comes to that. But more times than not, local school boards, that's just as important. Now, again, for example, in Hudson County, where I live, there are a few municipalities where school boards are appointed by the mayor and the subsequent board of commissioners, or let's say the town council. That's not always the case in every municipality. In the Garden State, I think now more than ever, we're seeing what I would argue is the necessity of parents who, newsflash, it's homeowners like them, homeowners like me and yourself, that our property taxes pay for school districts, books, personnel, resources, whatever. It's our tax dollars that fund school districts. I think that's something that most New Jerseyans or even Americans in general don't really remember all the time. You just think, well, it's funded by this. Well, no, it's funded by our local tax dollars. So that's why when we complain about having the highest property taxes in the country, which we do, more times than not, we're wondering, well, where are our tax dollars going? So I would argue that school board elections, because again, all politics is local. I would argue that school board elections are perhaps the most important, I think, genesis in civic duty.
Yeah, I mean, so that kind of goes along with my personal philosophy that if you're not taking care of your town, if you're not taking care of your local area, then what gives you the right to go ahead and take care of the county or the state or the country at this point? If you're not going to take care of your own home, let's start local first. Let's start as close as possible first, and then work your way out from there. And to me, like I said before, the school is the absolute backbone. That is the reason why people move to your town. I mean, there's certain towns where people can't even get a home because there's a waiting list to find, space in that township, because the district is so highly rated, because people want to go there. And that's a fantastic thing. So when you see these boards not being filled, or you see board members not being active while they're even elected, it sort of breaks your heart. And you're like, we in New Jersey, we often complain, and we should, because our taxes are so high, right? But if you're not going to go address your school boards, if you're not going to go look at that issue, then you really have no complaint to be at that point. So that's really where I'm at with that one.
I'm with you. I think, listen, and it's, New Jersey, arguably the most congested state in the country. It's such a transient state because of, we're kind of squished in between New York and Philadelphia. It's, it's expensive to live here. It's a very fast-paced type of society to live in here, or population. And, a lot of times parents are working, unfortunately now, due to this political climate and what we're having here with this joke of a president, administration, and spending, and the way that not just New Jerseyans, but Americans are struggling to buy groceries, to feed their families. More times than not, parents, especially let's say two-parent households, have to work multiple jobs. So they can't be involved as much as they would like in their children's education, or to be involved in school board elections where their voices ultimately are going to shape curriculum. Josh, is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, but the fact that, moms and dads or whoever the guardians of the children are forced to work, multiple jobs, or forced to work, so far away where they're not home until 6-7 o'clock at night. I mean, that's a greater issue than school boards, right? That's a societal issue that we're not addressing at all. So, but what we're looking for are people who are able to, but not doing it now, right? Because while there are that certain group of people that are working so much that they don't have the time to do it, they just don't have the bandwidth to, give you 10, 15, 20 extra hours a week. It's those people that do have that time that in the past couple decades have not done so. And those are the people that we're looking to now, who are actually now becoming the most vocal set of people in the state. The one thing that, the COVID and the pandemic was an absolute nightmare for a plethora of reasons. But the one good thing I think we noticed is parents were able to be home and watch their kids trying to learn online, and watching teachers struggle because they weren't provided with enough information of how to actually, teach a class. I mean, when you go to get your teaching education, you're not there to teach kids online. It's not a course that you take. Like, here's virtual learning. And I feel that a lot of our teachers were struggling with that situation because they were ill-equipped for it. And what in return parents were seeing is, these teachers are ill-equipped, but we're still paying all this money. Why are my kids doing this? Or, I mean, me personally, my kids were young. I mean, you want to put a pre-K kid on Zoom for more than 5 minutes, it was an absolute nightmare. And I felt for the teacher because she was trying, but you can't expect these kids to do that. And then conversely, you're talking about kids that were in areas of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade that are now in high school, and they haven't been in school physically since they've been in 7th grade. And that's a big difference.
Yeah.
That's not only just a learning difference, it's a physical difference, it's a social, emotional difference that they're not getting. And that's why I think you're seeing this giant gap of learning of social emotional well-being with students nowadays, because that situation occurred. But it has awoken a lot of parents. And right now, we had the numbers, and there is 1,950 candidates across the state, almost 2,000 candidates across the state right now. And, we have a good portion of them that we've worked with, helped, discussed, sent emails to. Our organization, if you ask for information, we're here to just give you as much information as possible. I don't want anyone to try to go at this completely blind, because it can be a daunting challenge, even though it is a nonpartisan race.
Absolutely. Folks, if you're just joining us right now, it's 6:12 here on the East Coast on Jersey First TV, a special Sunday night edition of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. And my guest this week is the chairman of Arise NJ, the great Josh Aikens here joining us. Again, folks, check out arisenj.com. Outstanding local organization, really, that's dedicated to helping empower parents and people get involved in school board elections, and to really help push, I think, good curriculums across our school districts throughout all of the 21 counties in New Jersey. Folks, he's Josh Aikens here joining us on Jersey First TV. Josh, it's interesting you bring up, obviously, the learning, not disability, yeah, I think that students faced during COVID. And unfortunately, I think what exacerbated this problem too is the fact that Governor Murphy also decided to not reopen schools quicker, like, let's say, other governors who, folks, I know this is uncomfortable for some at home to listen to, but Governors Abbott in Texas and Governor DeSantis in Florida got it right. And it shows, the numbers prove it, while blue states, blue governors got it wrong. And I would argue that this really hindered not just our kids, our adolescents, our middle schoolers, our junior high kids, even high school kids, but ultimately, I think it really hindered our teachers who, as you mentioned, were not prepared for this. Again, folks, it's been over a century since we saw a pandemic, okay? And the idea that teachers, listen, I work in education, I work in higher ed. I know full well, I have a lot of friends that are teachers, both, within school districts and also in higher learning. I get it. We're very tech savvy. We have to be, but no one was prepared for this. And to your point, teaching, kids in college, that's one thing. You can do your best to keep their attention, even though that they're adults or try to be adults. But to your point about even trying to keep a pre-K kid or someone in kindergarten occupied or or just getting their attention for more than 5 minutes on a Zoom meeting with multiple children, my heart goes out to teachers everywhere who had to endure that. And I would argue that the DOE was extremely irresponsible. And I don't think that they gave teachers across the state the resources they need. Listen, you can throw money at a problem, Josh, but it doesn't solve really at the core of it how the disadvantage that teachers were put in.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head that money doesn't always equal better education, doesn't always equal a better product. I think that the teachers were caught in a crossfire with parents demanding more because they were there, because they were paying attention, and then being ill-equipped. And whether or not I believe that schools should have been open or closed wasn't my position. My position the entire time as a board member, even though I'm not speaking right now as a board member, I'm not here representing my board. My position was always, why can't districts or counties make the determination themselves? There are districts in Hudson County where maybe the close proximity, maybe the cases were so high that district probably needed to be closed, or maybe there's a population in the area where they have some sort of predisposition to have caught the worst effects of the virus.
Congested, yeah. It's congested.
Yeah, where there's other counties in the state, Hunter and Warren, Sussex, some of those other counties where it's more spread out, the school population is lower, where they were able to, navigate this and would have been able to navigate this without a problem whatsoever. And it's just a shame that there just became a broad brush for every district. Every district is the same. Every district has to be shut down. And it was, it's a shame that happened, but it did. So, and I think that some of the districts that remained open last year or tried to remain open as much as possible last year, you're seeing their students not have this great learning loss or as much of a learning loss as some of the districts that are, I believe, newer. I don't even know. Last I heard, Newark schools still have masks on.
It's madness. It's madness, Josh. And to your point about again, this is where the emperor, I think, got it wrong when it came to COVID and schools, among other things, concerning COVID. But it should have been a regional thing. This one-size-fits-all mentality that the emperor had, along with Andrew Cuomo in New York when he wasn't fondling women, or the governor in Connecticut, or the governor in Pennsylvania. Again, this is where they got it wrong. Make it a regional approach, not just for our schools, but make it a regional approach when it came to businesses and how that hurt communities and how it harmed the economy of the respective states. And again, it's a reminder how out of touch I think Trenton and those in Trenton were, because the legislature enabled this. There's no way to say it in a kind way. The legislature enabled the governor to do this. The legislature, and I get it that Democrats have run the legislature with their majorities for almost 20 years now. That majority is kind of being shaved down, thankfully. But at the leadership positions, because, for example, where I live in Hudson County, my state senator is Brian Stack. He's also my mayor in the city that I live in, but he's a moderate Democrat. He's a very practical Democrat who listens to his constituents. That's not the case. We have leadership like Steve Sweeney, the Senate president, and Craig Coughlin, the Assembly Speaker, who just acquiesce to the governor at every turn. And good riddance to Steve Sweeney. His ass got shown the door last November, in that Senate seat. But the problem is the damage was already done. The legislature and the leadership there acquiesced to the governor way too much, allowed him to keep these emergency powers where, to the best of my knowledge, it still has not been signed away. So at the end of the day, school districts specifically really suffered with this sort of one-size-fits-all, blind, I think, apparatus that was at play when it came to COVID in our schools.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, Trenton has some issues, and I do think that the state is hopefully going to start making some changes and adjustments in terms of their voting history. And, maybe we'll get better candidates out there in the first place. A lot of times you'll see, this need or this push to have a change, but we end up not having new, fresh, idealistic candidates that have a different idea of how to operate government. Now, the governor, I mean, I think you know just as well as I do that because of the way the Constitution sits in New Jersey, this governor is the most powerful governor in the entire country. He has carte blanche to basically do and say whatever he wants, whenever he wants, however he wants. And, we do need a new legislative branch to push through a change in the Constitution to eliminate these powers, or to at least negate the majority of the powers, so this situation does not happen again. Because I have no crystal ball, but I can't see something like this not happening again. I can't see another wave of a new virus or a new whatever it is coming out again, and them going back to the well and saying, well, we're just going to shut everything down again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure China will send something else. I mean, they send a lot of bad things already here, bad products, and they send viruses. So I wouldn't be surprised.
But you're not allowed to say it's from China. You weren't allowed to say.
Well, I can say it. I know you have to be a gentleman. I don't have to be. I can, I can say whatever I want. You have to be a little more cordial, Josh. And folks, again, he is Josh Aikens here, joining us at 6:20 on the East Coast. He's the chairman of Arise NJ, wonderful nonprofit here. Check out their website, arisenj.com. Folks, again, on the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the contribute button. Click on that. And I know that we're back to school, we're back to work, right? It's the fall, it's NFL season, we're out and about. Maybe we need a coffee to sober up after being out for Sunday Fun Day. Do me a favor, folks. Hey, just go home and drink water, drink some Gatorade. Save that money that you exert every single week on coffee, on your super duper mega cappuccino macchiatos, all your breakfast sandwiches. I get it. There's no need for, summer body anymore. You kind of let loose now in the fall. Folks, don't do that. Save your money, take it, click on the contribute button, and it goes a long way in helping a wonderful organization like Arise NJ, again, led by the chairman, my guest this week here on Real Talk, Josh Aikens. Again, you can't say I'm not plugging you, man. Can't say
I know you are. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
All right.
Typically we don't look for donations or ask for donations, because I want to make sure that our candidates or the people that are looking for that information, they're the ones that really embrace their own campaigns. And so they come to me and they say, how do I win this race? How do I do that? And I said, each and every district is so nuanced in this state. You could be in your town, and then 3 blocks over be in another town, and it could be a completely different strategy. So I try to tell our candidates, you need to hear and feel the pulse of your town, your district, and you come up with a strategy that would work best for them. I can't tell you what would work best. I can give you recommendations or ideas or overarching thought processes that you should be going through when you're addressing the public. But, realistically, this needs to be your campaign, not Arise NJ's campaign, not Josh Aikens' campaign.
Now, Josh, when we talk about local school boards and local campaigns, I'm sure you've been talking to candidates all throughout New Jersey. We all know that the sex ed curriculum has been under the microscope. It's really been scrutinized for many months now, since I would argue probably the springtime. And I'm right, I was one of the first journalists, if not the only one, talking about it on a weekly episodic program. And, a lot of stuff has come out about this, and we'll get to it in a moment. Sure. But I would argue that probably, at a local school board, election type of apparatus, I would say that I think parents or people that are running, it's not just about the curriculum. I would say it's about making sure that spending isn't irresponsible at a local school district. Listen, I work in education. I understand there can be waste in anything that involves a state. And I know that there can be plenty of waste that can be involved at a county and at a municipal level. So I'm assuming that parents or, candidates you've talked to that are running for school board positions have to be also attacking that, because we know there is an enormous amount of waste coming out of Trenton. We know that there's an enormous amount of waste coming out in all 21 counties. And it's interesting where, the governor and the director of the DOE talks about, well, New Jersey schools are ranked the best in the country. Well, I'm always very skeptical about that, because, again, I work in education and higher ed. I know teachers in school districts all throughout the state, the most urban of areas where I live in Hudson County, and even in the most rural of area where it could be Cumberland County, Atlantic County, Warren County. So the idea that, yes, we have the best school districts supposedly in the country, but the idea that wasteful spending doesn't exist is just myopic.
Yeah, I mean, just because, we are number one in the country, and because we have great teachers, we have great parents, and we have great environment. As you said before, it's a fast-paced environment. It's a wonderful environment to grow up in. I grew up in New Jersey, and I've lived here my entire life, and I love it. Sometimes the weather, not so much. However, as I get older, I do want to, gravitate towards more warmer weather. So I know that I heard you before talking about the fall. I wish summer lasted forever. But for the situation with the schools, it's just when it comes to the spending issue, spending and talking about budgets is not a sexy topic, right? People probably nod off when you start talking money.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I get it. So people want to talk about these hot button issues all the time. And I have a lot of people that come to me and this is their main focus. I'm solely focused on masks. I'm solely focused on sex ed standards. I'm solely focused on, this or that, or this book or that issue. And that's fine. I try to, corral them in a little bit. I said, look, you're trying to win a race where you're not running as Fernando the Republican or the Independent or the Democrat. You're trying to run as Fernando, the resident of my town. And therefore, your entire voting base is everyone.
Yeah.
So if your focus is hyper focused on one particular issue, while it may be important, and I'm not negating, the passion that people have for these issues, because I have passion for specific issues as well, you need to consider the other issues that may be impacting the voters. And that's why I tell them that you need to understand the pulse of your district. You need to understand the pulse of your town and see what's going on. What are people talking about? You need to bring up issues like budget, like spending. Hey, what is the physical appearance of your school? Is the roof caving in? How's the athletic fields? How's the overall just general curb appeal of your school? Is that something that needs to be worked on? How's your testing? How's your district testing? How does it compare to the other districts in your county? You're spending just as much money in them, but are you getting the same type of results when it comes to testing? Education needs to absolutely be the front and foremost issue with every candidate. And I try to stress that to them. But again, it's just my recommendation. I don't do this because of hot button issues. I don't do this because of, one partisan topic or another partisan topic. I do this because I want those kids coming out of the district to have the best education possible to set them up for the next stage in their life, whether it be a trade union school, whether it be college or university, whether it be community college, whether it be just going in and starting to work on your own, starting up your own business, whether it be military, any of those fields. I want to make sure that when they do that, they're able to hit the ground running and there's not this great transition and they're not wasting time and money and effort, just trying to get acclimated to this new environment.
You're absolutely right. And I'm glad you brought up infrastructure, because no more times than not, you're absolutely right on that. It's not just about whether or not the district's being funded or not, the best books, the best Chromebooks or Macs or iPads. It's about the actual infrastructure. Case in point, up here in Hudson County, maybe you read about it on the news feed earlier this year. Hoboken School Board District was interested in building a new high school. And we all know that Hoboken, again, no disrespect to my people in the Mile Square City, that building's a dump. It's old. And believe me, a city like Hoboken definitely needs a new high school. But what happened was that the Board of Education and the school board in Hoboken were looking to, again, whether it was borrow money, get
probably go out to bond, right? That's probably what they wanted to do.
Exactly. And ultimately what it was going to do, it was going to increase the property taxes on residents. Now, to, the nice Starbucks sipping crowd along Sinatra Drive, living in those nice condos, that's great. But along the lifers in Hoboken or the elderly, you were going to see somewhere between, if I'm not mistaken, I'm looking at my papers here, somewhere between an $800 to $900 a year increase in your taxes. And you might be like, well, Fernando, what's that? Let me tell you something, folks. To an elderly person living on a fixed income in Hoboken, $900 additional dollars a year is suffocating. So parents came out, groups mobilized against it. It was defeated in a referendum. It was weird. It was like late January in the middle of dead of winter. And let me tell you something, people came out to vote and it was defeated. And I get it that, listen, Hoboken needs a new high school. But the problem was that, like anything else, excess. We saw the school board looking at the potential plans, an ice rink, ice hockey rink, 2 performing arts theaters, Olympic-sized pool. I get it. People foam at the mouth when it comes to these amenities. Okay, I live in Union City. For anyone that's familiar, Union City High School is probably one of the best high schools in the state. It was built in 2008, opened in 2009. It's a state-of-the-art facility. It's amazing. And I get it that, their stadium is on the roof. So their football and baseball and soccer teams all play their games on the roof. I get it. That's an attractive, sexy type of high school to want to build. But in an area like Hoboken, where it's so densely populated. And again, it's sort of like the old Hoboken and the new Hoboken. This can make it very expensive. So to your point about infrastructure, yeah, it's not just about books and making sure you have the best technology. Are the buildings falling apart? Are we having, is there asbestos in the pipes? Or is there drinking water? We all know about drinking water, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to cities and districts and towns. But to that point, it's like that's also something I think that goes on the wayside, and people forget about how important that is, though, too, Josh, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think what the problem with the Hoboken situation, and I'm not 100% familiar in, but if I'm taking the overall idea of what's happening, is their school didn't become run down overnight. So it seems as if there was a shortfall in long-term planning from the board. Now, the problem with school boards, and my organization is not going to be able to change this. This is just a problem of school boards in general. Is it a very transient position? You have people that, enter school boards for a multitude of different reasons. One, they want to use it as a stepping stone. Two, they do it while their kids in school. And if their kids are out before their term's up, then they're out. Or just people get tired of it. So you see the ever-changing seats. So people don't really keep a consistent strategy. And if you have a whole other set, let's say you get 6 to 7 new people on a 9-person board, that's a whole new ideology that's coming in. But the problem becomes like there was no overall theme, it seems. Again, I might be mistaken. So if I am, I apologize to anyone in the Hoboken area. But it seems as if there was not, a 10, 15-year strategy of, hey, let's phase this school out. Let's look for real estate now and start buying it and upgrading it. So we're not burdening the taxpayers. Now, you may have gotten the same amount of money out of the taxpayers, but you were not dumping it in all at once. You were piecing it together, and that's really what a good board member, what a good administration would do. And it just, again, I could be wrong, but it seems like that situation, they just waited until it was run down, saw the other school districts like yours, and it's like, wow, we want that too. The rest of the Hoboken community is really improving, and it is. I mean, Hoboken in the last 10, 15 years has been a complete turnover, and it's incredible. So when I look at that, I say, why didn't you look at addressing the school first? Like, why wasn't that one of the first things that you looked at? Why didn't you start phasing it in?
Well, it seems, Josh, I think they were more interested in gentrifying Hoboken first, and then it was sort of like the school buildings were, I think, on the back burner. That's my opinion. Again, I live nearby. I can say that.
It could very well be, and it does, it does seem as if what you're saying is true.
Yeah,
so.
Josh, in the springtime, we saw a lot of hysteria. I think legislators like State Senator Holly Shapizi out of Bergen County and others, State Senator Edward Durr down in South Jersey, Michael Test all the way in South Jersey. We're talking about this curriculum that has been really under the microscope. And you're a parent. And listen, I'm going to say it very succinctly, and I think hopefully the audience can make their own decision. I don't have an issue about teaching the history of the contributions of LGBTQ people. It's no different than Women's History Month, no different than Black History Month, Hispanic. Right now, I'm Hispanic. I'm living through Hispanic Heritage Month. I get all that. If you want to learn about Harvey Milk and other people, other LGBTQ people that have contributed to society and education, sports, business, whatever, I don't have an issue with that. Nope. But I think we're parents, and I think we're Trenton, or really at a crossroads, is what curriculum is being taught, what themes, what topics. In case in point, again, I work in higher ed. So when I devise a syllabus, the only person I answer to is my department chair. And guess what? My department chair says, you can write the syllabus however you want. Unless it's something really egregious and someone's going to complain, it's submitted and that's it. Same thing at the local school districts. Teachers have to submit lesson plans to their supervisors. They have to be approved. But we all know, whether it's in New Jersey or across the country, we can have school districts led by either superintendents or mayors or whatever. Case in point, in Montclair, somehow the mayor of Montclair, New Jersey is the president of the NJEA. How that isn't a conflict of interest is beyond me. That's a topic for another show. But those are school districts.
That's a whole other show. That is a whole other show.
Left. There are other school districts that lean very left. They might be very cavalier. They might let teachers take liberties with what they want to teach. And also to organizations like GSC, Garden State Equality, and others might have been very, very, cavalier, or just saying, hey, listen, we're going to have the DOE on our side. Let's infuse certain topics into the curriculum. Josh, let's separate fact from fiction. What do parents have a right and really to be concerned about topics being taught in this curriculum. Again, I don't have an issue in high school. I remember sex ed in high school was very, very minimal, nowhere near as graphic or as detail oriented as it is now. But the idea that 5, 6, 7-year-olds need to learn about gender identity. I mean, I'm sorry, like, did people in Trenton fail high school biology? Folks, it's 2 genders. Like, these are grown-ass men and women telling us openly, hey, I failed high school biology, and yet I'm going to have an influence in curriculum and everything else. Josh, am I overblowing this where I think that this is out of control? Or are LGBT groups concerned that maybe parents, school board elections, candidates are being a little too bigoted towards them? Where's the fact and the fiction here, Josh?
So when it comes to the LGBTQ insertion in the curriculum, so again, I think you know just as well as I do that the state comes up with the standards, the State Board of Education comes up with the standards, and then underneath that umbrella of standards, each individual board develops a curriculum, and then underneath that, teachers develop their lesson plans. So the first things first is making sure that our language is correct when we're talking and when we're speaking about these types of things. When you're talking about, teaching about LGBTQ influences throughout society, I have no problem with that either. The only problem that I have with it is if you're saying that the only reason why they're important is because they're LGBTQ. I didn't learn, and I know you didn't learn, that whether George Washington or Abraham Lincoln were gay, straight, trans, bi, whatever they were, they just did things. They did great things throughout history. Eli Whitney did great things. Albert Einstein did great things. All of these people contributed throughout history. No one cared about what their sexual identity was. And that shouldn't be what the important piece of this is. The important piece should be, what did they contribute to society? Now, if they were doing something that brought about equal rights, sure, that's something that we should be talking about. Not talking about, this person, was a fantastic athlete, but she was also, a lesbian. Okay, but she was a fantastic athlete. She won an incredible award. She did great things. Let's talk about that. And, you can go dive in a little bit further about her history. When you do a biology or, if you're going to write a paper or an essay about that person and you find out that that's how their lifestyle was, that they were identified as gay, that's fine. Let's learn about that from that perspective. But if we're going to say, like, I'm only going to teach about this person because they are LGBTQ, then I think you're really doing a disservice to a lot of people within that own community that have done a lot of great things because they were great people.
Listen, absolutely, Josh. And I'll even compound this even more. I mean, again, I'm all about cultural months, but it just seems that, like, a lot of LGBTQ organizations who we all know lean very left anyway, and they're enabled by the NJEA, which he leans heavily left also, I think also perpetuates this climate where, listen, we need to be learning about this or hearing about it constantly. Listen, I'm Hispanic, Josh. I'm all happy about Hispanic Heritage Month. I don't need to have where I live in Hudson County, there's a parade every week, it seems, for this country and that country. I don't need that stuff. Not because I dislike Dominicans or dislike Salvadorians. That's not either here or there. It just seems like overkill. It's the same thing, I think, with this, even Pride Month. We know NJEA likes to sort of put this out there on steroids. Same thing with Black Lives Matter Week, which pissed me off to no end, where a Marxist organization is being glorified by the NJEA, where membership dues, to the best of my knowledge, are being taken from membership from teachers, right? And the NGA is sort of throwing it back into these campaigns, these events. It's the same thing. Listen, I understand that LGBTQ people have faced discrimination for decades, if not centuries. I get it. I understand that. And my heart goes out to them. But do I need to be hearing about it every 2 seconds? I mean, do I need to be patting you on the back or congratulating you because, okay, you're a man and you're attracted to another man? Great. Live your life. God bless you. I don't need to be hearing about it. I mean, I'm a straight male. I'm a straight white male. Do I need to be force feeding it and, sticking my tongue down the throat of whatever woman I'm dating on a daily basis? Of course not. I don't need to be doing that.
I really hope not. Yeah.
No, of course not. But again, that's the thing. It's like this overkill where identity politics is on steroids, Josh. And I think that's an element, where parents, it doesn't sit well with them. And again, it goes back to these topics. I don't have an issue. Listen, when I was growing up, again, and I'm Hispanic, and there's a lot of still homophobia that exists in the Hispanic community. But when I was growing up, yeah, my parents had a talk with me about, hey, well, such and such family friend, they're lesbians. And they're still people. We still have to love them and respect them. Don't look at them differently, but that's what they are, right? When they're not being married to a man, they're married to a woman. Great. Same thing if you have a gay classmate. Again, I'm all about inclusion, making sure that no one's marginalized. But the idea that a 5 or 6 or 7-year-old needs to learn about gender identity or transgenderism. Listen, when I was 5 years old, Josh, all I cared about was baseball, playing Little League. I could barely tie my shoelaces. Kids are impressionable. Kids are impressionable. This is just another, I think, idea for people who lean heavy left to indoctrinate kids. That's not bigotry. That's not being homophobic. That's not being transphobic. That's the truth, Josh.
Yeah, I feel we need to take a step back from all of this stuff. And you go to school, what is the priority of school? And the priority of school is to educate children in the foundations that make us a better society. And those things are, reading, writing, arithmetic, right? Those are the things that we've been taught our entire lives. Those are the things that improve your mental capabilities. They improve your ability to, just become a better human being in terms of being productive in society. The other aspect, the learned aspect, is something that you pick up and develop and digest as the world comes to you. The problem nowadays is we're not allowing the world to come to children. We're force feeding children the world, and they need to be thinking one way or another way. You need to think this way and this way only, instead of, why don't you come back? Why don't you go out and see the world, digest it, and come back with your own thoughts about how things are or how people are. And maybe you will see people in a different light if you go meet more people. And really what's happening is the children are not being able to have that opportunity, and they're really losing something, and we're going to lose something in our minds, in our biology, that is going to be a problem going forward. I believe is children are not going to be able to think critically at all. They're not going to be able to think on their feet. They're going to be automatons that are going to say, this is the programmed answer. This is what has been drilled into my head. And if I don't say it, then I'm going to be lambasted by society. I'm going to be excluded from work. My wife, my husband, my spouse, whoever is going to leave me. My children are going to, disown me because I don't think the way that, you're supposed to think. And I think that we're starting to see this sort of clash of generations of, generations who are maybe a little bit older like ourselves, and the younger generation of they only know the programmed answers, and they can't figure out the nuances of people's experiences.
Absolutely. Folks, it's 6:40 here on the East Coast on Jersey First TV Live. Joining me here this week on a special Sunday night edition of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe is the chairman of Arise NJ, the great Josh Aikens. Josh, before I let you go, it's been a great conversation today. We could talk for hours and still not get through everything. I know you're on a school board, but you're also helping candidates in your capacity as chairman of Arise NJ. Mm-hmm. What's been the hardest part thus far during this election season? Is it helping candidates raise money? Is it about helping them manage social media better? Is it just simply trying to get people to go knocking on doors? What would you like? Let's rank, from easiest to hardest about, for you, again, in your capacity and for your organization, helping school board candidates during this very sort of lively election cycle.
The hardest thing, honestly, is time. I don't have enough time in my life. Trying to balance everything has been very difficult, and I do apologize to any candidates that I've not been able to get back to as quickly as possible. And I tell them the same. Really, what the hardest thing that a lot of these people are dealing with is they're scared. Not for the backlash, not for any of the other things. They're scared because you're now putting people who, for 20, 30 years of their life, never thought about getting involved like this. This is a very, new world for them. But they know that they need to do something, right? There's something that's telling them, I have to do something. So I need to pull that fear out of them and say, look, what you're doing, whether you win or not, is the right thing. Whether I 100% agree with why you're doing it because it's the right thing. And that's what they need to understand here is not doing anything at all is the wrong thing. Avoiding all of this is the wrong thing. Sitting on the sidelines and whining and moaning about it is the wrong thing. Going out, engaging the people around you is the right thing to do, because even if they don't win. So some of these candidates that we have, like last year, about 50% of our candidates, maybe a little bit less, didn't win. And there was a mishmash of reasons of why a lot of them didn't win. There was no steady answer, right? Some of them spent money, some of them didn't spend money, some of them listened to our advice, some of them didn't. It was just kind of hit or miss. But what they're now doing is they now know their neighbors. They now know the people on the street. They know the people down the block. They know the people that work at this store or work at that business or not, where they didn't know them before. And they see them now not as a, Josh a Republican, Fernando an independent, this person a Democrat. They see them as, I know that guy. He works down at the deli down the street. He's a great guy. How are your kids doing? How's your wife doing? That's the type of thing that will greatly bring back communities. And I think it's something that we're missing. And I'm hoping that this will be the start of it in New Jersey to create, to sort of sow the divisions that have been sowed at the national level.
Josh, well said there. Before I let you go, again, folks, check out www.arisenj.com. As I mentioned earlier, the upper right-hand corner, click on the contribute button. And as I said, I understand it's fall. You'd be like, oh my God, I'm falling in love with all these pumpkin spice cafe lattes. I get it, folks. It's chilly. It's autumn. Save some of that money. Make sure you're not consuming as much sugar. Total it up at the end of the month. Click on the contribute button. Your donation online is safe and secure to this nonprofit. And again, it's if I'm not mistaken, it's also tax deductible. So folks, do something good with some disposable income. Contribute to arisenj.com. Again, the contribute button there. Make sure you like them on Facebook. Certainly follow them on both Instagram and Twitter. Make sure you also check out and follow Josh as well, Josh Aikens, on his Instagram and Twitter as well. Josh, you're a gentleman for coming out. I know you've had a long weekend, a long week. Again, it's less than 5 weeks to go towards Election Day. School board elections, just like the midterms, I think, are in everyone's minds. And we know that here in New Jersey, a lot of very competitive U.S. representative races in North Jersey, Central and South Jersey. But school board elections, folks, now more than ever matter greatly in the Garden State. And I want to thank Josh Aikens, once again, the chairman of Horizon J, for coming on. I think he's become a fan of Real Talk. I don't want to sort of speak for him, but I think he's become a fan of Real Talk with Jersey First TV. Josh, I'll definitely have you back on later this fall after the elections to sort of dissect how the school board candidates that Horizon J was helping, how they did, what they need to do better, what they did right, whatever. We'll talk about that much more later this fall. I want to thank you for your time. I'll give you the last word here tonight on Jersey First TV.
I have to say that I am becoming a fan. You keep using the great Josh Aikens. That title doesn't sound so bad. I don't hate it, but I do appreciate everything. Any way we can get the word out, it's greatly appreciated. So thank you very much. And I'm not going to say go Cowboys. I was raised in New Jersey, and I can't bend the knee to the Cowboy star. So best of luck tomorrow at your game.
All right. Well, hopefully they'll get a W there. But Josh, again, I'm just glad you're speaking up for parents and you're mobilizing for parents. I'm very thankful for that. Again, it's good to talk to fellow patriots that are doing that. It doesn't make us bigots or transphobes or homophobes. It makes us concerned homeowners and taxpayers. And that's not a bad thing in any political climate. Folks, once again, he is the great Josh Aikens, the chairman of Horizon J. Join us here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Josh, we'll talk to you later this fall here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. God bless you, bro. Keep up the good fight.
Be well.
Have a good one. All right, folks. Again, great episode there with Josh Aikens, the chairman of Horizon J. Folks, again, check out the website. It's wonderful. They're a great nonprofit organization helping parents and candidates get elected to school boards all across the state, because now more than ever, I think we want parents and responsible candidates running for school board positions. And again, if you're just joining us now, folks, it's 6:48 here on the East Coast on a special Sunday night edition of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. And of course, you can always check out all of my episodes at jerseyfirst.org/TV/Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. But folks, before I call it a night, I certainly go enjoy Sunday Night Football tonight. Again, as a reminder, there will be no show tomorrow. I, along with 35,000 other members of Cowboys Nation, will be invading MetLife Stadium as we'll be playing the New York Football Giants. I have a little tea right now. Maybe I'll have some victory tea tomorrow night right around midnight. Hopefully, we'll see. But again, folks, it's special Sunday night edition here coming to you live from the Uribe compound here on Jersey First TV, via YouTube, also on Facebook Live via StreamYard, and also on the Jersey First LinkedIn page. Again, we appreciate you tuning in here. And folks, before I call it a night, as I said, it's always time, you know it, for this week's edition of The Worst Journalist in the Garden State. And this week, of course, once again, I do have two winners. And of course, folks, when we talk about bad journalism in the state of New Jersey, there's a lot to choose from, okay? But I have to say, let me start off, bat and lead off, of course. Yes, we always know, ladies and gentlemen, it's NJ Spotlight News. And of course, when we talk about NJ Spotlight News, we talk about who I would, equate with Thanos from the MCU, right? Sort of the evil villain in the MCU. I would argue the evil villain of NJ Spotlight News. Yes, folks. It's Uncle Dave, David Cruz, este imbécil, that every single week comes out and carries water for the left and has the audacity. And again, folks, let me just say this, because I do make it a point, again, to get better at your craft, you have to watch everything. So I'm not tribal. I'll watch news programs all throughout the state of New Jersey and also, of course, nationally. So whether it's Reporters Roundtable hosted by David Cruz, it's nowhere near as good as when Michael Aaron hosted it, but that's a topic for a different day. Or whether it's watching other programs like Steve Aravado, or again, just reading columns all throughout the state of New Jersey to get better at your craft. Again, folks, I didn't just become a 7-time award-winning journalist. I mean, that took work. That took working on my craft, working on better presentation, better delivery, and just being as knowledgeable as possible. But this is what really bothered me this past week after watching Reporters Roundtable. And I make it a point to watch. I'm not a hater. Okay, I'll watch Reporters Roundtable. A lot of good journalists that appear on there, like Terrence McDonald, Michael Simons from NJ 101.5 FM. Again, Terrence McDonald from the Jersey Monitor. Once in a blue moon, Charles Style from NorthJersey.com and others. Okay, Josh Rodheimer from NJ Spotlight News as well. But what's really interesting this past week is for Uncle Dave to have the audacity, bro, este hombre tiene lo, tú sabes qué, to talk about, well, when it comes to CD11 candidate Paul DeGroot, by the way, was my guest last week. Great traffic, as always, on this show. You definitely want to check out that episode, ladies and gentlemen. But Uncle Dave had the audacity to talk about or to critique that Paul DeGroot chooses not to speak to the liberal media in New Jersey and kind of sort of relegate his campaign to just social media, right? And Uncle Dave and the rest of the journalists on there had, again, the audacity to be critical, well, more so Uncle Dave, about the fact that, well, Paul DeGroot doesn't want to talk to the liberal media. Well, why would he, Dave, when people like you, and again, there's plenty of examples to choose from, Dave. I dissected it last week. But again, folks, Uncle Dave is the same journalist that, if you remember watching, and folks, it was perhaps the most embarrassing display of a man crush on a guy like Uncle Dave, who's probably, I don't know, in his 60s or something, walking around with Cory Booker, right, who somehow dug up his old, football jacket from high school. Probably got some poor intern to dig through boxes in his garage. This guy had the audacity to walk around with some Greenville shirt, because, Uncle Dave is so proud about Greenville. Folks, if you've ever visited the Greenville section of Jersey City, it's a dump. Es un desastre. Es basura. Es basura. You go to that part of Jersey City, es basura. And Uncle Dave, I know, gets a little triggered about that, gets a little sensitive about calling where he lives basura, but it is. Drive down by Greenville, drive on Bergen Avenue, drive on MLK Drive, okay? Folks, drive on Ocean Avenue. Eso es basura. Like, I don't even want to walk around there during the daytime. I can't even imagine walking around at nighttime. But this guy had the audacity to critique Paul DeGroot, a CD11 candidate for the House of Representatives, that, he's not willing to talk to the liberal press, or he's not willing to talk to the press. Why should he, when the liberal cesspool, the liberal media, which you're a part of, Dave, which you're a cheerleader for, isn't going to be fair to him? When are you ever fair to anyone that's conservative? You're just not. I mean, again, let's go back to the example with you and Cory Booker. I had to sit through, these are 3 or 4 minutes of my life that I'm never getting back. It's an image that I cannot just unsee anymore in my mind. You're walking there with Cory Booker, and this was you. Like, your lips were firmly planted, like, on the keister, on the posterior of Cory Booker. Folks, is that what we expect out of the senior political correspondent for NJ Spotlight News. Well, again, at the time, NJTV. Folks, that was embarrassing. That was just, I mean, hombre, tú no tienes pena. Like, bro, tú no tienes vergüenza. Tú no tienes vergüenza. That you walk around like, mwah, like that is Cory Booker's posterior, and those are your lips firmly planted on them. Folks, bro, es una desgracia. Este hombre de 60 y pico años ahí, bro. I don't know. It's embarrassing. So, of course, when we have episodes like that or segments like that, or the other left-wing propaganda that you peddle, Dave, why would any conservative or any Republican candidate take you seriously or want to come on your show? Why? To get lambasted? To get sandbagged? To get that gotcha question? Because, folks, I have it on good authority, not just with candidates like Paul DeGroot, but all Uncle Dave cares about, like other, democracy hysterics, like Sleepy Allen and little JJ Lassiter, which I'll get to in a moment, right? All about January 6th and January 6th and democracy's fun. Democracy's not going anywhere, Dave. And Sleepy Al and DJ and Maxie Olivier, Twinkle Toes, the editor of Insider NJ, and among others. No, but this is the thing. The reason the Republicans or conservative don't want to talk to you, Dave, or other members of the liberal media is because you're not going to be fair. And that's not a newsflash. So again, Dave, do better. When you're going out there critiquing candidates saying, well, that's not a smart move. Well, what choice do they have? Are you going to be fair to them? Of course not. Your cheeks, I'm sorry, your lips are firmly planted on whether it's Cory Booker's posterior or other Democrats' posterior in the state of New Jersey. So how is that even going to be a fair assessment by anybody to trust you to be objective and neutral in an interview? Give me a break, Dave. You should know better. You're a grown-ass man, almost 70, and you're still acting like this. I don't know. It's like you're like back in high school having this crush on somebody, and that's what you look like in that embarrassing segment with Cory Booker. And that's what you look like when you don't critique liberals and the left in New Jersey. Again, I get it. You're part of the liberal media establishment, but you need to do better, Dave. And, I know you're already set in your ways, and I get it, that you do that. And what was even more embarrassing this weekend during Reporters Roundtable is talking about sort of like interesting things in New Jersey. Yet Terrence McDonald from the New Jersey Mirror talk about a piece of property in South Jersey, I believe, or down the shore, that I guess was owned by Frank Sinatra, Oh Blue Eyes, at one time. And apparently this establishment plays Frank Sinatra music quite often. The audacity of you, Dave, to talk about, hey, maybe whoever buys it shuts it up, because those are your words. I get it, Dave, that maybe your taste in music, I can almost guess. You strike me as the type of Boricua they probably thinks Bad Bunny is good music. Or you probably think that, that obnoxious, trumpet solo by, when Edwin Diaz for your New York Mets, comes out of the bullpen, dun, 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 like that's what you think is good music. I'm sorry, Dave. Oh Blue Eyes, Frank Sinatra, that's good music. Now, if you're too ignorant to acknowledge that, that's on you. Again, maybe you grew up on bad music, but maybe you just still listen to bad music now, whether it's Bad Bunny, which I'm pretty sure you mark out for, or listening to the obnoxious, trumpet solo concerning Edwin Diaz. When Edwin Diaz closes a World Series game and gets a title, come talk to me again, puppy. Okay, but in the meantime, we all know what baseball team runs New York, and it's my New York Yankees. In the meantime, Dave, do better, but it just seems that in your old age, you're not going to. Now, of course, speaking of old age and speaking about bad journalism, of course, you know what we're talking about. We're talking about Insider NJ. And of course, when we talk about Insider NJ and bad journalists, who can we always rely on? Well, of course, Sleepy Al, Alan Steinberg, Maxie Olivier, Twinkle Toes, Max Pizarro, and of course, to no one's surprise, yes, the little bitch himself, little JJ Lassiter, who, again, if you look at his Twitter feed, and I like to look at Twitter feeds for journalists all the time, has the audacity to go after Michael Simons from NJ 101.5 FM, talking about, well, maybe there was one-sided reporting about State Senator Edward Durr's bill to introduce, let's say, to protect kids and parents from, transgender surgeries or whatever else, which, again, he has every right to introduce it. That's what his district wants. He'll introduce it. It's certainly not going to go anywhere because of what's going on in Trenton and how the legislature in both chambers lean left, but he has a right to do that. But then for you to go after Michael Simons, well, by the way, folks, Michael Simons from NJ 101.5 FM is one of the most decorated and one of the most, I think, honorable journalists in the state of New Jersey. By the way, Michael, thanks again to, for the follow back on Twitter. But the idea that, again, you have to sort of look at this Twitter feed here. This is great. This is a little JJ writing at Michael Simons. Quote, Ed Durr's bill is going nowhere, despite your very detailed depiction of what that dead on arrival legislation would do. In fact, the principal thing articles like this accomplish is to make trans kids hate themselves. I can understand the station's desire to turn the page from defending teachers who literally, not figuratively, effed their students. I'm not going to use that language on the air. Oh my God, right? But I'm here to remind you that one-sided reportage like yours actually harms people. No, Jay, Michael Simons doesn't engage in one-sided reporting. He doesn't. Unlike you. I mean, talk about the pot calling the kettle black here. Okay, but this is a really good one here. So he ends the tweet with, if you're curious about cultivating a list of sources who are actually transgender, I can help. I know I'm not a real reporter like you are. Really, Jay? No, you're kidding. You're not a real reporter? Spoiler alert, we've known that forever, Jay. We know you're a garbage journalist. We've known that forever, aside from being a garbage human, but that's a discussion for another day. So you go on to finish. I know I'm not a real reporter like you are, but including actual transgender voices in an article devoted to trans issues seems sensible and reasonable. Well, you know what, Jay? I hate to break it to you, but Michael Simon's going to write a column however he wants, just like you're going to write your insufferable columns the way you want, right? And you virtue signal and everything else. But what was really interesting is, again, oh, I know I'm not a real reporter. Really, Jay? You just discovered this now? I mean, thousands of people in New Jersey know this. I've known it for a long time when I have to endure reading your columns. And I'm sitting here, right, whether you write for Insider NJ, another garbage news site, or you're writing for LGBTQ Nation, right? And I'm here like reading, and I'm just like, and I'm like, oh man, hold on a second. Let me get through this. And I just realized I'm only through the first paragraph. I mean, that's what you do, Jay. So again, folks, if you need a cure to insomnia, check out Jay Lassiter's articles, because when the little bitch isn't virtue signaling, he's peddling hysteria about something. Folks, go back and read Michael Simon's column. It's very fair. It's very objective. It's simply reporting on State Senator Ed Durr's introduction of a bill into the Senate chambers. Whether it goes anywhere, I sincerely doubt it, because it just seems like the legislature is all about acquiescing and coddling the alphabet army in New Jersey. And that's fine. They can do whatever they want. But it doesn't mean that journalists can't write about it. And Jay, Jay, this is what really annoys me about you, is that if someone's not writing a column the way you think it should be written, then, hey, let's just go after him. Michael Simons, listen, folks, this is the thing about Michael Simons. Michael Simons has more class and integrity in his little pinky than little JJ does in his 70-year-old body, okay? And to compound the fact, Jay, also, too, on your Twitter feed, the audacity of you to sort of go off on a tangent about too much coverage about Queen Elizabeth. Again, I get it. You don't like another lady getting more favorable coverage than you. But again, folks, Queen Elizabeth, and God rest her soul, has more class, more grace, and more integrity in a molecule of her blood than the other lady, little JJ, does in his entire body. So for you to write something irresponsible like that, no, Jay, there's no such thing as too much coverage about the Queen. She's an honorable woman who dined with 14 American presidents, a woman who conducted herself with class and dignity, something that you don't know anything about. We know this, all right? But the idea of doing that or writing about tennis, no one cares about tennis, Jay. No one gives two drops of piss about you. You seem to be the only little girl that likes to talk about tennis. No one cares, Jay. Get over it. Watch some other sports. Like, it's Sunday Fun Day. Go watch whatever local team you like down there in South Jersey. All right? Or the NBA's starting. The NHL's about to start. Watch the baseball playoffs. Tennis. Ni que tennis, hombre. Por favor. Sigue comiendo mermelada like you do all the time. And if you need a translation for that, you know exactly what it says. So, folks, again, when we talk about bad journalism, yes, we can always rely on the little bitch, as we know, little JJ. Little Jay Lassiter, of course, with Insider NJ. And certainly, folks, when it comes to Uncle Dave and, little JJ, I'm kind of thinking when Jay's there at home, virtue signaling, thinking about what, column to write. By the way, again, being the broadcast journalist that I am, I get exclusives. I can get footage from the most exclusive of sources. And here's a footage of probably little JJ doing work at his house down in Cherry Hill while he's smoking, I don't know, a bag of weed an hour, and he's virtue signaling and perpetuating victimhood at all hours like he loves to do. There you go, folks. If you ever need to know what little JJ looks like when he's down, at home doing work, writing his next BS column, there you go, folks. You can always rely on little JJ to sit there and look the way he does. And of course, when we talk about bad journalism and garbage journalism, always rely, ladies and gentlemen, on NJ Spotlight News with Uncle Dave, and of course, with Insider NJ, ultimately the two biggest sources of garbage journalism on a weekly basis. And those are my winners this week here as the worst journalist in the Garden State. And that's our show for this week here on a special Sunday night edition, folks. Make sure you check out archives of the episodes at www.jerseyfirst.org/TV/Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. And also, of course, make sure you check out the Jersey First TV YouTube page, also the Jersey First LinkedIn, as well as my own Facebook page streaming on StreamYard. And of course, folks, on the Fernando Uribe Jr. page, the Fernando Uribe page seems to be restricted right now by Facebook. What else is new? But again, check it out, folks. Sharing is caring. Share it whenever you can on your news feeds, on your Facebook, on your Instagram, on your Twitter. Make sure you check out my Twitter and Instagram. It's the same handle, @TheFernandoZone. Also, make sure you follow me on Facebook. Again, I'm the handsome guy there. You can't miss me. Fernando Uribe with the headshot. And also Fernando Uribe Jr., my backup page to help keep promoting Real Talk with Fernando Uribe and all my other great media programs. Also, make sure you like Jersey First TV on Facebook as well. Folks, again, no show tomorrow night on Monday. We will return next Monday night with a live edition on Real Talk again via StreamYard on Facebook Live, also on the Jersey First TV YouTube page, and of course, also on LinkedIn. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it is always Real Talk right here on Jersey First TV. I am New Jersey's premier and now 7-time award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine, and certainly the Garden State's most beloved and factually accurate political commentator, Fernando Uribe, saying so long, folks. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Let's go Cowboys tomorrow night as me and 35,000 members of Cowboys Nation will invade MetLife Stadium. Let's hope for a W. Who knows? It's a tough series, a tough rivalry. We'll find out. But folks, again, I'll see you next Monday night, October the 3rd at 6 p.m. Eastern time here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Folks, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, thank you so much for watching.